Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V. Have you wondered what it would be like to be the wife, um, to be a family nurse practitioner, and live life to your fullest extreme? Well, my name is Dr. Viola Pierce. I'm the owner and the CEO of VP Nursing and the Nurse Nurturer, and the facilitator of Secret Supples Worldwide with Dr. V, where our goal is to equip healthcare professionals to be spiritually and physically fit, financially stable, able to lead with integrity, to decrease error at the bedside, and in leadership, to lead a full empowered life. Our goal is to come to you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, although we're coming a little bit early this morning, to give you the fuel to crush your goals to show up exceptional on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter at The Nurse Nurturer, Instagram at VP Nursing, and if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can also visit us at our website at vpnursing.com. So we have a special guest today, one of my all-time friends, Mary Downey. So I told her to send me a bio, and it was super funny how she sent this. This is what she sent to me, guys. Okay, she says, "So bio, that's funny." Um, hmm. She said, "I am married to an absolute nut, Samuel." I would have to agree with that. Blended family total of 6 kids: Jonathan, Shamari, Dion, Angela, Asia, and the remaining one at home, Sydney. 2 grandkids, Furry and Kingston, currently working for FQHC in Enfield as a nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner, here since 2018. Actually started in healthcare in high school, hosted Health Occupation Students of America, received my CNA in high school, worked in a nursing home for a little while, then saw the ambulance and became intrigued. Was told I wouldn't make it. Gotta love it when people tell you ain't gonna make it. I will prove you wrong. Started full-time, part-time, and then full-time in 1997. Received her national registry. Started at a local hospital in 2004 as the ED tech. Started at Nash Community College, then North Carolina Central for her BSN. Did some travel nursing. Worked at 2 other hospitals and went back to school for a master's to become a family nurse practitioner. And here we are. So I'm super excited to have you. So I want you to tell us a little bit about your healthcare journey, because I guess I said it because you started as a paramedic first, but why did you start as a paramedic as opposed to becoming a nurse from, right out of high school?
So my mom called me an adrenaline junkie. I really did. Every time I saw the ambulance, I was like, oh my God, I wonder what's going on in there. And so I saw one of the guys that was working with EMS, and I was like, well, what do you have to do to work on the ambulance? And he was like, basically just take a class and, yada, 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 not thinking that I was truly interested. So then when I showed up at EMS, he was like, oh, she's serious. Well, and so I did the class and, fell in love with it. And it was truly because I was an adrenaline junkie. So that's how I started off. I always loved healthcare, but I wanted more. And starting off in the nursing home really didn't give me that adrenaline push that I wanted. So I ended up in the
It is so true, because when you work in the ER, that's what you go there for, right?
Oh, indeed. Yeah. Every day is a new ride.
Every day.
You think you have seen it all, you are proved wrong that next morning.
We'll come up with something, and you can't make this stuff up, right? You cannot make it up. And
Not at all.
did that just really happen?
Did I really just see that on the X-ray screen? Okay. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
morning.
I've seen a few of those. Yes, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
So what was your motivation to move from paramedic to nurse and from nurse to NP?
So from paramedic to nurse is when my girls would tell me, Mommy, I'll see you tomorrow, because I was working 24-hour shifts. And it was their normal. And I married Sam. It's my second marriage. Um, and just thinking about having another child and having a different kind of normal. Um, in addition to that, the patients have gotten heavy, and my back was a concern. You know, I wanted to be as healthy as possible, and the lifting, because at that time we didn't have, you know, automatic stretchers. So my health became a concern. I said, you know, I want to know what else I can do, you know, what else is out there for me. And plus, I am so nosy. I wanted to know what happened to my patients after they got off the truck. I wanted to know if the care that I gave was the correct plan and, you know, how they fared. And I wanted to know their disposition. And I couldn't find that out once I dropped them off and got back in the truck and came back to the building. I wanted to know more. So I decided to go back to school for nursing.
Yeah, on the care. It's super important to see where that patient goes because you do want to know that. You know, I remember times calling to the tertiary care facility to see kind of what happened to the patient. And you know, there were times when I was fairly surprised. I remember times when, and this kind of changed my perspective as it relates to the patients that I thought were not going to survive because I would call like this one kid, like he flipped like 120 feet, like he was on a motorcycle,
Wow.
flipped and landed on his head. He came in with altered mental status, and I just knew that he would not make it. And he walked out of the hospital a week later. And so that taught me that, you know, just because you think that this is going to happen on that continuum of care, that may not happen. And so that's really, really good. So now, how do you think your role as an NP has helped you broaden your footprint of the patients that you care for?
So it's helped me become more humble. Um, it's more than being a nurse practitioner. You know, even when coming out of school as a nurse, you know, you think that you're ready until you hit that floor. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't learn half the stuff I needed to learn while I was in school. It's the same thing as a nurse practitioner. They're basic things that I think people have to learn. Just overall. And I don't know if you remember this because I'm sure that I'll be dating both of us as far as learning this. But there was a book when I was in like kindergarten and first grade that said everything I needed to know about life I learned in kindergarten. And it was basically, you know, being respectful, being kind, and being able to listen. That's a big deal for my patient population. And I think it's a big deal overall. If you're the provider and you don't take that time to listen to your patients, they're not going to trust you when they're sharing certain information. They're not going to feel like you're engaged or that you're a part of their healthcare. And sometimes it only takes that extra 30 seconds of just quiet and active listening for that patient to be like, oh, I think I might hold on to her. You know, I think she might know what she's talking about. And even if she doesn't know, she's going to find a way to allow us to both have a better patient experience, a better healthcare experience. Um, some data that I found out, it's probably about 5 or 6 years old now, but for every one provider in this area, there are over 600 patients.
Wow.
That is horrendous. And that's one of the things that pushed me to want to go back to school for my NP,
Gotcha.
using the ER as a primary care, which that's what was going on, you know, in all of the ERs that I worked in. I could see that, you know, well, do you have a regular doctor? No, I don't. You know, I don't have time. They're not open. They don't listen, you know, things like that. That's stuff that you really have to take into account as a provider. You know, why are my patients constantly showing up in the ER instead of coming to the practice? So just being able to be that additional link in the chain. Now, truly, if they have something going on that's ER appropriate, that's where I'm sending them.
Right.
But As far as primary care and just educating people on their own, lifestyles, it may not be a good idea to eat a whole 8-piece chicken. It's probably going to affect your cholesterol, but it's things like that that nobody ever, just kind of sat down and talked to people about. So being able to communicate and, you just have to learn so much with insurance and what medications they're able to afford, and just being humble enough to see that this person has to decide whether or not they're going to pay their light bill or get their blood pressure medicine. I mean, it's a lot as a provider that I did not know prior to hitting the floor.
Yeah, yeah. A different a physician in the emergency, he didn't listen to the patient, and the patient was upset. And I remember going to the patient's bedside, and I was sitting there talking to the patient, and she was like, she was complaining about what the interaction was. And I was like, well, as a charge nurse, I was like, well, what can I do to make this better? And she said, well, I would like for him to come back and apologize. That's all she wanted, was an apology. And so I said, well, okay. And so I walked up to him and I said, this is what she wants. She wants an apology. And he was literally like, he was upset that I even came to him and asked him to give an apology. I mean, if you have offended someone, just apologize for it. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
You're given, I mean, he gave excellent care, but she's going to leave with that feeling of she was not given excellent care just because of her interaction with him. And he just didn't realize it. He wasn't humble enough to even do that. So I was just like, well, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's important. I'm super excited that you have you've gained that, and of course you've always had it, but I think that as a provider is a very different standpoint as it relates to the patient and the continuum of care. Now, why do you think that leadership is so important in healthcare specifically?
So, because you're going to have at least, you're either going to be a leader or a follower. I mean, that's just the way it is. You can be a good leader that realizes that there is no I in team.
That's right.
You don't have to wear leader across your forehead or on your badge. It's all in your walk and your talk. And that's something that if you're a true leader, nobody has to tell you that you are. You initiate teamwork. There has to be delegation, and there has to be accountability. There is, at this point, nothing that I would ask my team to do that I haven't done. If there is something new that we need to learn, we will all learn it together. When we have to have huddle meetings because of COVID. You have to share information. You can't just think that, okay, yeah, I went to this meeting, I know what's going on, they don't need to know. That's not how this thing works. If you're going to have a great team, everybody has to be on the same page. So it's a work in progress. While I was at the ER, I thought about it. I went through 11 nurse managers the time that I was, 11. But one of them stuck out with me, and it was the one that I didn't really think I was going to get along with, and we probably really didn't get along. But sometimes it's not the messenger, it's the message. And her message was that healthcare and the medical field is a fluid process. You cannot get used to one thing and expect it to stay that way.
That's right.
That's something that she always said. And so I had to look past, and it's probably because we were so much alike that we didn't get along. Is it Deborah Vaughn?
Okay.
We only had her for a short amount of time. But she did have a lot of wisdom. And like I said, we were probably so much alike. That's the reason why we were like oil and water. But, it is what it is. But that was her statement that, the medical field is a fluid process. So you have to always be prepared for change. And that's something that I try to carry with me every day, because even when I think something is going to be cut and dry, high blood pressure, put them on medication, we're going to work. And then, or medic lisinopril, you've been on it for 20 years. Then you come in with angioedema. I mean, it's things like that. You just have to be prepared.
That's right. That's right. And it is such a change, and whew, it can be daunting at times because of the fact that it changes every day.
Yeah.
But in order for us to get better, it is the continuum of change that makes us better as healthcare professionals, and not just healthcare professionals. It bleeds over into the patient. So yes, that is super important. Now, tell me about a time that you served as a mentor or preceptor. How were you able to ensure that success of the person that was entrusted to you?
So I think, what is it, the Marines or the Navy, where they just push you off in the water and you either sink or swim, that kind of thing. Uh, so just being able to push them out into patient care. Um, a lot of times when they're going for their masters or when they're doing their precepting, depending on what their background is, a lot of people don't come, right up in nursing. They come in with another background that may be not medical. So it's difficult for them to go out and have that first interaction with the patient in a new clinic. Um, my patients, I love my patients. And that's one of the reasons that I've stayed at this location, because they are awesome. But my patients are spoiled. So when they come in and they see a new provider, because it was so much turnover prior to me coming in, they get a little antsy. So this one preceptee that I had, I was like, just go in and be yourself. Don't Don't take the book with you. Don't take the computer with you. Just sit down and talk to the patient. You're learning. So you can use this opportunity to work on your communication skills and your listening skills. I really just want you to listen to what they have to say. I'm not going to set you up for failure, but you have to be able to communicate to get on their level to figure out what it is that they need. And so we can serve them best. We're here for them. They're not here for us. And so, she was like, but don't I need to? No, you don't need to write. You just need to go in. Just go in and sit down and talk. And so after about 10 minutes, I was like, dang, I might need to go in and check on it, make sure everything's all right. Let me make sure. I know I set up with a pretty good patient, but let me see what's going on. They were having the best time. And I'm like, so I kind of need my student back. I asked the patient, if you don't mind, can you unhand my student? And they all laughed about it. But it's when you're trying to perform a task, and that's what it feels like when you first step out there, and just you lose it for a second that you're human, that you're still gonna make mistakes. And you're not going to know everything on that first go. Just relax, and everything else will come. And it's not about writing on paper. Yes, we have to get the documentation done, but you want to build that initial rapport with the patient. And what I've learned through my grandmother and through a lot of other people, technology is great, but it's not always perceived as great.
That's right.
My grandmother would say, the doctor's not talking to me. She's talking to that computer because she never looked at me. And that has stuck. And that's why I try my best. I don't go in with the computer unless we're updating a lot of medicines, and then I might just take the tablet. Let's go over a few things, but it's about that patient. That patient wants to see you. They want to talk to you, and they want to feel better. Whatever's going on. If they're already feeling better, they want to stay that way.
That's right.
And so to have that preceptee say, this is, I can do this without taking that notepad in, or writing all this stuff. Yeah, you can, and you'll feel better about it as a whole.
And it's important because I remember, and I've said this as long as, and I will say this until I am actually not breathing any longer. We are not caring for the computer. The computer should be an asset to us. The
Correct.
computer should not be something that is a barrier to our patient care. And, when people tell me that they can't change things in the computer, I struggle with that sometimes. And, of course, I don't, I'm not an informatics nurse. I went to one, I remember going to Kansas one time and learning some code. And I was like, that's not for me. I'm good.
IT.
That's right. But it's important that we understand that healthcare is about the patient. It's about the healthcare provider, which is what our goal is to, point to the healthcare provider, but it's also about the patient also. And ultimately that's who it's about. I remember I did a podcast with one of my good friends, colleagues, Trina, last night. And Trina, she said, whenever you go in healthcare, you feel so vulnerable, right? And when people are ugly to you, then, how do you handle that? And I said, that's the reason why it's so important that, we pour into the healthcare professionals so that they are able to pour into you, because it is amazing when that combination comes together and you see it. And one of the things that helped me out is that it was that turnaround, right? So when we went into the emergency department, we would see the patient turn around.
Right.
Immediately, we would see that patient turn around, and we'd be like, "Yeah, that's the reason why I'm in here. That's the reason why. That's the reason why I'm doing the things that I'm doing." So now, what are some of the things that you do to keep your team motivated and engaged?
We talk. We talk about everything. I don't make any decisions without having like a majority rule. So if there are changes that are coming down the pipes, they know about it just as soon as I know about it. Um, we don't have a box or a way of like putting suggestions or anything. So I just tell them, if you have an idea and you want to remain anonymous, you can write it on a piece of paper. Anytime that we have meetings, this is open forum. I need to know your concerns. I need to know what we need to do to work smarter and not harder. I'm not about sweating. I'm not about being frustrated. And in order for everybody to know and be on the same page, we have to communicate. So they know that as long as I get a lunch, I don't care how many patients I have to see. As long as the provider is fed, we're good. They know that if my schedule is already full and I really have somebody that's sick, I'm going to try my best to see them. Um, a lot of my patients, because this is so rural of an area, they walk, they ride their bike, they catch rides. And I'm just like, if you're that dedicated to your healthcare to come and see me, I am going to see you.
Right.
So, it's I am so thankful that I am here because they have humbled me. Um, and it's just a great feeling, even when they're frustrated. I want to know, why are you outside acting like this? What happened? Let's get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I know you're mad at me at this visit, but I have several patients. I'm not coming back to see you. I said, okay, well, I'll see you in 3 months. Because we're gonna get to the bottom of this. So it's a great place to be. And you have to be able to receive, if you feel like I'm not listening or if I've missed the point, give it to me again. I'm human. I just, we have to do this as a team. I don't tell you what to do and you do it. That's not how this works. This is a team effort. And if there are barriers that are keeping you from getting your medicines or being compliant, let's talk about that to see what's available to help you.
And I think that's improving. It looks like you receive constructive criticism, and because I think that that's important. I remember being, and I don't know whether maybe I received it and then just didn't listen to the constructive criticism or not. But I remember being demoted from 2 jobs, right? And being demoted and not understanding that my leadership was just not on par at that time. But then after a while, I was just like, I've got to figure this whole leadership thing out, and just went into studying leadership, and the game changed completely. It
Absolutely.
changed
And
completely.
with that, as far, faith as well, uh, God is going to keep giving it back to you.
Until you
Same place here until you learn. You will learn. If you don't learn today,
feel are.
it's on the way, Suge. And I had to learn that too. I'm like, why? This looks like the same situation I was in 6 months ago. I don't understand. You haven't learned yet, little girl. So no. You just have to. You have to get up in the morning and say, because you're truly in control of your day. Whether you're gonna have a sucky day or whether it's gonna be awesome, you have to speak that into existence. And the learning process is the same thing. Now, Lord, I know I done talked to this boy 20 times about picking up his clothes. Well, obviously, you're not doing something right because he's still throwing his clothes
On the floor.
on the floor, you know. So it's things like that. And so when I come to work, I want people to be able to say, Mary, I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Okay, let's talk about it. You know, Patient says that they have a fever. Well, what was their fever? 99.9. That's not a fever. Let's talk about this. And a lot of this has come up because of COVID, which is a great learning strategy. What's the fever? What you need to look for? What signs and symptoms? And if you're consistent in the teaching, it may be some tweaking, but the basics are about the same. You can pass that on. And nothing is better than to see in a telephone encounter or documentation from your clinical staff, and you can see they've received what you were giving them and they're passing it on. And then the patient, when they come in and they're like, well, yeah, you told me this, this, and this, but this didn't happen. So what do I need to do? Yes. Okay. So now we're on the right page.
We have some feedback.
Yes. Yes. So
That's right. So, are there any leaders, as we conclude, are there any leaders that inspire you? Who are they, and in what ways do they inspire you?
oh, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's for
Well,
sure.
without him, I would be
Nothing.
nothing. Um, I do a lot of well, I don't do a lot. Facebook streaming. I like funny stuff. I like cartoons. Um, I love your pastor. I actually watch some of his podcasts. My pastor as well. Uh, I watch a lot of political stuff. Uh, I can learn from anybody. I learn from my patients. Um, I like
What
reading
would,
inspirational books.
what would be a leader in healthcare, specifically a leader in healthcare that has inspired you?
I would say, I would actually say my medical director, Dr. Ronald Hughes. Um, he has the best disposition I have ever seen in my life. Even when I first started and had like absolutely no clue, it is so easy to talk to him. Um, and just trying to keep up with documentation and get my charts locked. And he was like, it's not going to be perfect, but it does need to be done. And he doesn't like criticize you. He always gives constructive communication, but he's just easy. You know how the world can be blowing up behind you. He'd be like, oh, okay, that's we're gonna work through this. Because he's just that. He's passionate about his care. He loves his patients, but he's a great communicator and an awesome leader.
And that's important because Proverbs talks about a soft answer turns away wrath,
Yeah.
and it's important for leaders to not get upset during these times, because what happens is your team takes from you, and so then they get upset because they're looking at you and they're like, you got more information than I do, and you're upset, and so then maybe I should be upset. And so it's very important for them to do that. And I would encourage you to go back and talk to him and tell him what you just told me, or either let him see this live so that he knows that he has effectively affected you in that way. So I think it's super important that we lift up our leaders, because at the end of the day, they have a lot on their shoulders. And
Absolutely.
I can sit back, and be the man in the back of the room and say, well, you should have done it this way, you should have done it that way, but I don't have all that information. So I think it's super important that we let every leader in the room know about what that particular thing. Well, I'm super excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you.
Welcome. I love
Yours
you.
of my heart. Again, my name is Dr. Viola Pierce, owner and CEO of VP Nursing and the Nurse Nurturer, and the facilitator of Secret Suppers Worldwide. We will be coming to you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you the fuel to crush your goals and show up exceptional on a daily basis. You can follow us on Twitter at the Nurse Nurturer, Instagram at VP Nursing, and if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also visit us at our website at vpnursing.com.